You stop! You stop right now! Rico shouted towards Salus, who was approaching the situation somewhat dumbfounded, simply staring at her, clinging to the ground tightly, her feet refusing to stay planted, trying to float away. She was clinging to the ground like a cat would cling to a tree. This teacher fault. Rico no float away before. You told Rico to do it wrong. Hey, calm down, Rico, Salus replied. You're just a bit scared, that's all. You don't understand. What you're experiencing isn't abnormal. You just think it is because you've never experienced it. This not normal, Rico shouted. Rico never float before. No one in Rico's family float. Rico like ground. Ground and Rico good friends. Rico does not want float away. What if Rico can't find way back? She shouted, still frantically panicking. The look of terror on her face was very concerning. Relax, Rico. I highly doubt you're just going to float away on the breeze. And as far as none of your family floating before, I can understand that. If I were to hazard a guess, I would say this was a demonic ability that you possess, becoming active for the first time. By the looks of it, it appears as if Eco have abilities that can't be activated until you meet a food requirement. Basically, this ability is natural for you. You're supposed to be able to do it. But you have to reach a certain level of food fulfillment, meaning you have to eat enough demonic energy in order to be able to do it. And with the way that Eco usually tend to have to survive on the bare minimum, I can definitely see this being abnormal for you. But I assure you, for you at least, it's probably perfectly natural. You're just a little bit freaked out by it. Like a baby that's just taking its first steps. Rico does not care, she shouted. Just fix. Make Rico stop floating. Rico no wanna float away, she said, panicking still. Okay, fine, Salus said, as a large amount of mist began to float off of his body, rising up in thick, billowy white clouds, very rapidly forming what looked like a ball and chain, one end being a ball, a very large one, and the other being a chain, which quickly wrapped around Rico, before changing its form somewhat to be somewhat of a harness, affixing her to the heavy ball that was now cracking into the ground around it. It appeared as if the weight of the ball was at least real enough, whether it was an illusion or not. Okay, Rico, you can let go. I've created you a nice little anchor, so it won't matter. You won't float away. You sure? Is ball big enough? Yes, Rico, the ball is big enough. You won't float away. You can let go. Rico was extremely hesitant about the entire thing, but after a bit of coaxing, she begrudgingly let go of the ground and began to float upwards, eventually being stopped by the harness wrapped around her, about 10 feet into the air. Okay, good. Rico no float away. You should have told Rico, she shouted down towards Salus. Hey, don't blame me for this. I didn't know that you were going to start floating, kid. I figured that you had demonic abilities, but I didn't think any would be so immediately triggered by you just eating some more food. Or perhaps it's the sheer amount. To be honest, I can't be certain. Just tell Rico how to stop it. Okay, well, Rico, it is your ability. So, if you focus, you should be able to control it. Just stop panicking, calm down, take some deep breaths, and then try to focus on the direction that you want to go. Try a few different methods. Just like with calling your energy out, sometimes your emotions affect it. Perhaps it's your fear that's causing you to float away so vigorously. Maybe if you calm down, it'll be easier to control. Okay, Rico, try, she said nervously, as she closed her eyes and tried to focus a bit. Rico is calm. Rico is relaxed. Rico is a caterpillar. Caterpillar's no worry. Rico is just caterpillar, eating tasty leaf, she began muttering to herself, as she started trying to take slow, deep breaths. After a few moments, Rico actually did start to descend somewhat, heading back towards the ground, eventually being able to land very gently on her feet, no longer floating. As her feet touched back towards the ground, a look of absolute relief washed over Rico's face. Oh, it's over. Rico is happy you're friends with her again, Ground. Rico is sorry. No be mad at Rico, she said, staring down at the ground, asking it for forgiveness. Okay, so it appears there are some interesting developments. Rico can fly, apparently. If I were to hazard a guess, I'd say that, as I said before, it's most likely a response to you having an overabundance of food. The excess demonic energy you took in resulted in the ability to fly. It's possible that you'll maintain that ability over time, or it's also possible that it could fade over a short amount of time. There's really no telling. It could even depend on whether you eat that much regularly. As I suspected, channeling your demonic energy did enhance your ability to take in demonic energy, vastly increasing the amount. As to whether it had any effect on the ability itself, I can't say. But the ability to devour energy seems interesting. It appears those sharp teeth of yours aren't just for decoration. They seem to be the focal point of your ability to devour demonic energy. Your tattoos also seem to have some sort of effect, as I saw them glow. As far as your abilities go, Rico, I'd say we're in for some experimentation. In other words, we're going to have to go through a system of trial and error to figure out exactly how your demonic abilities work, especially considering that some of them seem to be based on how much you're able to sustain eating. Or perhaps it's an overall demonic energy rating. Perhaps taking in that amount of demonic energy increased the overall demonic energy in your body, and thus you started to float. I suppose there are just too many possibilities at the moment. We'll get it sorted out, Rico. I guess you don't need the ball and chain anymore, he said, beginning to raise his hand towards it, before Rico shouted at him. No, no, Rico shouted, somewhat frantically. You leave. This Rico's now. She keep until she's sure she no float away. Rico did not like. Well, you're gonna have to get used to flying eventually. It's definitely a powerful ability and exceptionally useful. So, you're going to have to get used to using it. Oh, Rico no want to. Rico like the ground. You'll come to terms with it. In the meantime, I suppose that leads us to the next half of this training practice. Now, it's your turn, Taleon. We're going to practice that little ability that gave me so much trouble when I was dealing with you.